All right, next up on the docket is the accessory drive system. Now, we can't use the stock because this is not stock. The truck air intake would be much higher and the truck water pump would fit. That won't fit. So I have to get a Camaro water pump, and I'm going to modify the alternator bracket. And also I went ahead and did aftermarket bracket for the air conditioning pump. And then I think that's all I got, but let me show you what I'm gonna do. Here's the bracket for the alternator. I saw this online. I think the guy's YouTube channel is Sweatpants Posse or something like that. But they do a lot of LS1 stuff. What he did, he went ahead and cut off all this area right here, all the way around, down, and I think straight across, and then he made a gap right here. But anyways, so the alternator, instead of sitting up here, it's going to attach here and just flip over on the back side, and this will be moved in. So the alternator is going to be over here. It'll be out of the way from being up high, and this area right here, which blocks, actually hits the throttle body, it won't hit it anymore because it's going to be gone. And he said he used a Sawzall, so I'll see what I can do. One of the main ideas, or one of the main reasons I'm doing this is cost. You know, I don't want to buy another chunk of, you know, ICT billet for $300 or whatever. I'd rather use something that works and looks okay. And you know, the power steering pump is going to go down here, and it's going to fit fine down below, and it has plenty of room. And that's another bonus for it. So we're just cutting this off, removing the idler, I think it is, moving the idler to this position. And we'll have to get in that later because we'll need a spacer. I'll have to make a spacer maybe from right there. But we'll see what happens. Now over to the water pump. This is the original water pump that came on it, and this is the truck water pump. And this is the tensioner, or pulley, whatever, that goes on that water pump. I was just fitting it. But this water pump is not correct for what I'm going to use, because the spout, or this connection, the spout is going up, and it is at an angle, but the throttle cable mechanism hits right here, and it blocks it, and plus this it doesn't fit. So what I did is I went ahead and ordered the Camaro 02 or 98 to 02 Camaro water pump, and what that is basically the same thing. This bulbous thing is actually a little bit thicker, and you don't have all these ridges down here, and the spout actually comes out right here, comes straight out. So that'll work out, and the throttle cable mechanism won't interfere with that, and it'll work out. That's one of the differences. Everything else is the same except for the Camaro one is 3/4 of an inch thinner, so it's going to be about that big. So that's not going to line up with the belts. But what everybody's come up with, or somebody did, they made spacers for the back where it connects on the back here and over here. Now these spacers are 3/4 inch, so it pushes everything out, so everything will line up, which is great. And one cool thing about the spacer, it is drilled, it has a port, so you can take your steam tube, which I was going to run to the radiator up front. I was going to have a port in there, so the steam tube, they'll all connect and go to the radiator, and then connect there so the steam will go that way. So you have a continuous system. But since the spacer that's going to be right around here is going to have a port, I'm going to go ahead and do a tri-connection and then have it go to that port so you don't have all that extra hose and it just hangs down here. And I just cut that off and then put the tri-connection on there and it'll work out. So those spacers were actually a bonus. And like I said, I did aftermarket mount. I mean, this is the air conditioning mount, but I went to aftermarket and I went ahead and painted this. That's why it looks good. But I'm not going to be able to use this. But, I bit the bullet. I got the cheapest aftermarket I could find out there, which was like 114 bucks. I think it's made by ICT Billet. I don't know. They got their name on it. I don't care. But even with the aftermarket air conditioning bracket and the modification of this bracket, I don't think it's going to look that bad at all, really. But so the pump, the bracket, and the spacers won't be here for 3 days. So until then, I'm going to work on this. So let's tear this up. This is just a rough cut. It came out pretty good. The whole section is gone. I got to smooth it out. It doesn't look bad, just smooth it out a little bit. Used my angle grinder and my Sawzall. Cut it down and took as much as I want off right now. Don't take too much off because, you might need it. And what I was talking about, that little notch, since this is concaved a little bit, the pulley's going to be out here. Actually sitting up here. But it's going to be out this far. So what you got to line up wherever you connect the bottom part of the alternator. Bottom part of the alternator needs to be level with this. So whatever you cut out and add as a piece, you need to make sure it's level going all the way across so your alternator's not, the alternator's like, say this is a really small alternator, but it's not cockeyed or, this or that. So anyways, let's go see what it looks like on the Camaro. Oh yeah, much better. See, that big piece would have been sticking right there and screwed it all up. So the alternator is going to sit right over here on this side. 3 bolts holding it in. And then the back side right there, that's where I'm going to have to cut out a notch in the bracket and then put it in there so the bolt goes through that, and then the bracket will actually support the alternator in the back. And it shouldn't interfere with anything. The power steering pump's going to go down here and you'll be able to access it still. Pour fluid in there and all the lines will be able to go over to the power steering pump right there. I mean the steering box. So it should work out. So in a couple days, I'll have the water pump, the other bracket, and I should have this all shaved down to what I want, sort of. And then we'll go from there. Okay, just to let you know, I did clean it up a little more, so it looks, you know, more, just more manufactured. And it was supposed to be this way, but I cut it so the alternator would flip around to the farthest point, and I wanted to like totally structurally screw it up. So that's as far as I got. And if you're looking at the engine, it's going to set like this. Instead of the alternator being up here, it's now over here. This is a pivot point, and what I'm doing is measuring for a piece of aluminum to stick right there. I'm gonna have to cut it down probably the length of this lip all the way across, so this piece of aluminum will slide kind of in there like a slot, and it'll be level. That's what I'm doing right now. I'll have to trim up everything. Then the back side, flip it around again. All right, the back side, you're going to have the same thing, but it's going to be connected right here and then go down to this point. Now, ideally, I want it to connect and go straight down like so. It's off a little bit, so this chunk right here is going to have to be moved. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into this so it slides in. Then I'm going to stick a pin through there, mark it, drill a hole in it, and it'll slide in, and it'll have a hole in it, and then the bolt will go through. So it'll hold it in place. That's my plan. All right, that should fit nicely. I did make it a little too big, but that's why we have washers. I might have to grind off just a little bit more. All right, it's a semi-finished product. So it came out pretty good right there. I wanted to get it pretty much flush, so go straight. Same here. It looks pretty good. This is obviously not the bolt that I'm going to use, but it's just a placeholder. Same with this one. I got to find a longer bolt. And what I might do is underneath, if you can see there's a space, I'm going to put a spacer in there just to give it a little more support. But I got a steel spacer I can just cut down, or aluminum spacer, cut down, and then just put it around the bolt. So it's just more or less for support, so it doesn't collapse or anything. And then right here, just to clean it up, I'm going to throw washers right there. That'll be good to go. All right. I'm not calling this a failure. I'm calling it well, stuff happens. Anyways, the back bracket that I, drilled for, cut, and put in here does not fit because it interferes with the cap and the neck of the power steering pump. So I'm not going to be able to have it. So I'm just going to have one bracket on there. Hopefully that is not going to affect the performance of the alternator. we will have to wait and see. But for the most part, it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. Move the alternator over here. So it's out of the way of the throttle body, and everything will still line up and it'll work. I don't have this pulley on yet, but there's going to be an idler here, or not idler. There's just going to be another pulley here. It's just more or less a tension, not a tensioner, but just another pulley. It's not going to. There's not any functionality to it other than guide the belt across. But anyways, what I'm going to do now, I got to clean this up. Like I said, you know, make these rounded so it looks a little better. Put a spacer behind here. These are obviously not the bolts I'm going to use. I have to order those, and then I got to get an extra long bolt for when I put the pulley right here, so it comes out and lines up with everything. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and test mount or test fit the water pump and the aftermarket bracket for the air conditioning pump. And the water pump has spacers behind it, and I'll show you those in a minute. Here's the water pump I was telling you about. This is actually for a Camaro water pump, like I think it was like 2000, 2003 or whatever. The reason I got it was because the spout is coming straight out instead of up to the top like this one, because it interferes with the throttle cable mechanism. Anyways, the kit came with 2 metal gaskets and a I guess paper, cloth, whatever, gasket for the thermostat housing. I had the master kit from when I rebuilt the engine, came with 2 metal gaskets, so it worked out because I need 4 now. Actually, this is the spacer kit, and I think it comes with gaskets. Huh. Oh well, I got extra gaskets. Here's the 6 bolts that will mount right here to hold everything in, the spacers. And here's the air conditioning pump bracket. I haven't opened it yet, but the bracket, spacers, bolts, spacers, and the 2 pulleys. So I got to get into that and start putting things together. Your air compressor bracket. Now, just a note, it says if using air or vintage air or non-OEM sedan 508 compressor, refer to page 2. So what you're looking at, this is page 1, and what it's doing is you can use the 508 compressor. I guess comes with your LS1 type setup. Like mine would be the truck. It says truck sedan, so it uses. Okay. I had to step back because things weren't lining up, and it was very frustrating. I think I figured it out. I started putting this bracket together, and things weren't adding up. When I was putting the bracket together, I was finding out that the bolts weren't long enough. I mean, they were just short. I mean, the only 2 bolts that were actually lining up were these 2 and this one down here. with the 2.20 inch spacer. And I was like, what's going on? Well, this bracket is for an LS swap if you're using the truck water pump. I am not using the truck water pump because truck water pump has a spout right here that would interfere with the throttle. That's why I wanted the spout coming out the front. Now I thought I got the spacers to help with the distance so the belt would come around here, which it should. I mean, it's there. It lines up with the belt down here. So it lines up and it would be out of the way of the spout and everything and be cool. But I did take into account that I moved this water pump out too far for these brackets to actually be correct. Meaning there's from where the water pumps connect to the block to, let's say, 2 1/8. Yeah, about 2 1/8. So it's going to be 2 1/8 from this point to this point. Now, if you go over here, and those 2 points we're looking at from right here to right here. So it's roughly 1 5/8. So I might have got this right, as in, you know, the right water pump I wanted to use, but this is not designed for this water pump, which is for a Camaro, I think it's a 98 to 02 Camaro water pump. So what I think I need to do to correct it is, I don't want to do it, but I don't want to send it back. I mean, it probably work. I just don't want to send it back. I'm going to have to shave down these spacers. I have to shave them down the exact amount that will line up the pulleys, because right now the pulley sticks out. It only lines up with about 2 teeth down here. The tensioner pulley. So I need to shave down these 2 spacers and also get shorter bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that right now. So here are the results of me cutting these down. Now here's the 2 pulleys that are going to be on there. This is going to be the ribbed one up here, and this is down here is going to be smooth faced. But they're just there as to line up to camera's not lining up, or my eyeball's off. No, there it is. Everything lines up. So what I did is I just knocked off pretty much half an inch. So I should be able to use the rest of the bolts as per the directions, and everything should line up. Hopefully. We'll see. All right, we're back, and everything's together pretty much. It's kind of just a mock-up, right? Remember, this is an ITC billet bracket for your air compressor. Yeah, that's it. And they require a tensioner from a Camaro from the years 98 to 02 that fit this bracket. The brand that should fit is Gates or AC Delco. I did use a Dorman. I brought the bracket into AutoZone, and all I had was Dorman. I pulled it out, and it didn't fit in the groove right here. So it's either AC Delco or Gates, and it'll fit. Everything went in good. These cut down pretty well. So I did have to use a different bolt, but that's fine. Hex. You'll just have to get a bolt that fits whatever you need. And everything worked out on that. It's nice and tight. I do have to take it off because I got to put the washers back on the spacers in the back. But for now, the mock-up is doing well. Now, I do have to address this side. This side is kind of perplexing a little bit because this is the original bracket for the alternator and the power steering pump. But I'm looking at this, you can't see it, but I look down this and I'm looking at the pulley down here, and it doesn't line up. I mean, it's like way over. When I put the power steering on, or somewhat, it does line up with the pulley down here. So I don't know why this one is not lining up. So I'm going to have to fiddle with that. So that's what I'm going to do now. We need to put on the power steering pump. And that goes right here. These 3 holes line up with 3 of those holes. So let's go ahead and install that. All right, I think I'm done with the accessory drive system, I'll call it, brackets. Let me put this on, and it lines right up. This one is still off, but it's going to come up from the water pump. So I'm not worried about that. This is going to go down. It's a little off. It's still off going backwards, but we're going to see how it works. Yes, there's only one brace right there, as you can see, because the other brace was interfering right here with the cap, so we'll have to see what happens. See if this thing's strong enough. If it's not, I can make it thicker and brace it. I have to support it from behind. But I still have to put the gaskets on the spacers behind the water pump, and I got to put the thermostat housing and the thermostat in there and all that. And then I got to switch out I got to put a couple washers in here because these things rattle around. I don't want that to rattle. But for the most part, the accessory setup is done, which I'm satisfied with. I have some touch-ups to do it later. But the way the belt's going to go is from start up here with the alternator. It's going to go down to the power steering pump, swing around the bottom, come back up, hit the tensioner, go over that, go around the air conditioning pump, and then around this pulley, and back down underneath the water pump, and back up to the alternator. It'll work out. At least that's what I'm hoping. Anyways, that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, because this is kind of disjointed, because I'm using like 3 different, I'll say, products, and trying to make it work, and I think it's going to work. Like, this is the original bracket for the alternator with power steering. This is off, pretty sure it's a 98-02 Camaro. Because the spout's coming out front and not at an angle. And this is from ITC, and it's made for, I'm pretty sure, the truck water pump instead of the Camaro water pump. You know, they probably make one just for the Camaro water pump with the spacer, but oh well. I had to shave those down. It worked out. Anyways, if you have any comments, let me know. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you see something that I don't, let me know too. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Alien RestoMod Garage.